everybody. I know it's Tuesday, but it sure feels like a Monday. Short week or not. Waking up today was difficult, but being here now on The Sweat with my co-host Reid Fowler is turning this day around.
What an entrance. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not contributing to your mood boost, which I should be, you know these guys will. Say hello to our NBA panel DFS expert Jeff Eisenband, the Action Network's Matt LaMarca, and RotoWire's Nick Whalen.
All right, guys, time for NBA pick and roll. So please choose between the following two options for tonight's slate. Now, Luka Doncic is coming off his first career triple-double, putting up 55 DK points against the Bucks last night. He will be 8,400 tonight against the Clippers. Also in that game is Tobias Harris, who's coming off a 61 DK point performance against the Spurs. He's slightly less expensive at 8,000. So, Jeff, who do you like more here?
I think that maybe I'm old school, and I know everyone wants to jump on the Luka Doncic train, but I'm going to go Tobias Harris here. I think he's been the more reliable of the two. If you look at their body of work, obviously Luka Doncic great at home. He could easily pop off, but in terms of the guy I know is going to get the points, it's Tobias Harris, and the fact that he's $400 cheaper, even more for me.
Matt, choo-choo, you on the Luka Doncic train?
Listen, I love Luka Doncic. I've been driving the bandwagon for basically since 2 teams or 3 teams decided they didn't want him on their team, which was ridiculous in my opinion. But the fact that Dennis Smith Jr. is rejoining the team tonight does make me a bit concerned. Doncic has a lower usage rate and assist rate when sharing the court with Smith this season. So on the other hand, you look at Tobias, they're without Danilo Gallinari, and no one on the Clippers has seen a bigger boost in fantasy production than Harris with Gallo off the court this season. So as much as I love Doncic, the pick for me tonight is Tobias Harris.
Nick, do you like LaMarca's analysis there? Do you agree?
I do agree. Yeah, we're going to go 3 for 3 on Tobias. I mean, I love Doncic as well. I feel like I need to say that. I haven't met anyone yet who doesn't like Luka Doncic. Mm-hmm. But like we said, no Gallinari for the Clippers tonight. Harris played 43 minutes Sunday against San Antonio, 27, 9, 9, and 3 steals in that game. So obviously it's a small sample, but he actually had a lower usage rate in that game without Gallo on Sunday than he has for the season, but he did post his highest single game assist rate. So, you know, probably doesn't get to 9 assists again tonight, but I think there's a little bit more room for some more scoring. Spurs aren't a great defense this year. You know, reputationally, I think people still think of them like that, but, you know, Dallas is really only a few spots better in terms of defensive rating. And obviously Doncic is coming off that triple-double, but they're on a back-to-back. They're flying all the way back from Milwaukee. Clippers are a little bit more well-rested, and Luka's only averaging about 31 minutes per game over his last 10. So this is a situation without Gallinari where Harris could end up playing, 10 more minutes than Luka Doncic.
Yeah, and some NBA news off the top. Kawhi Leonard, who is not playing, he's not in tonight's lineup, and it's just a rest day for him. Yeah. So if you guys wanted to, nothing to relate it to what you guys are talking about, just some NBA news.
Just a little alert for you.
Just a little alert for you.
It's all related, Reid.
It's all related.
It's what we do, though.
It's all related.
Yeah.
Full circle.
Can I just say that there's something fishy with that situation?
Ooh.
I don't know what it is. Like, you don't rest 3 games in a row. They haven't played in 2 days. It's just weird. Something's going on there that they're not sharing with us. That's just my opinion.
Action conspiracy, Matt.
I have 0 sources. It's just weird. I don't think you rest a player 3 games in a row like that.
Is 0 sources the name of your source? I have 0 sources.
That's good. That's the name of my podcast when it eventually drops.
0 facts, 0 sources. This is what I'm going to tell you. It's fishy.
Facts
I like that.
only.
Next question here, Bogdanovic had a huge game last night, 51 DK points against the Nets. He'll cost you $5,200 against the Raptors tonight in the Kings' 4th straight road game. This year at 6,900. Matt, conspiracy theory Matt, who would you rather have?
I'm going with Bogdan. I'm saving the money. If you look at the Kings tonight, they have the potential to be pretty short-handed. They've already ruled out Iman Shumpert, and then De'Aaron Fox and Nemanja Bjelica are both questionable. That should give Bogdanovic a solid bump in minutes. And on a per-minute basis, he's been really good basically for the whole season, but particularly over the past month, he's averaged 1.06 DraftKings points per minute, which is more than Buddy Hield. So I think tonight he sees some extra playing time, and he's a really strong value at just $5,200.
Nick, where are you going with this one?
No, I agree. It was a little bit tough, before that injury report came out, but I agree that Bogdanovic probably sees a few more minutes with Shumpert out and, maybe De'Aaron Fox as well. Going up against the top 10 defense, always tough, but this is a Raptors team that, as we just said, won't have Kawhi Leonard, so you don't worry quite as much about that. I think, even with these injuries, Hield probably still has the higher ceiling, but if you watch yesterday's game against Brooklyn, it was Bogdanovic who looked like the much better player. 22 points, 11 assists, 6 boards, 2 steals. He's got a steal in 4 straight games now. Gives you a little bit more multi-category production than Hield. So even though Hield's usually a little bit safer in terms of workload, I think with these injuries, that kind of closes the gap and makes it a little easier, when you're talking about a difference of $1,700.
So, Jeff, are you going with that safer option there with Buddy Hield?
No, yeah, I'll play devil's advocate here, and I'll say that great for Bogdanovic. He gets 51 DK fantasy points, but Buddy Hield had 55 the game before, and for the most part this season, he's been on fire. He's been, you could say overachieving. That doesn't help my argument, but the point being, if you want to be sure that you're getting your worth, get Buddy Hield.
All right, guys, CJ McCollum's at his cheapest price of 2019, a mere $6,000 against the Thunder. Or you could take Dennis Schroder, who's $600 cheaper and has been hot lately. So do you prefer McCollum or Schroder tonight, Nick?
I feel like at this price, you just have to go McCollum almost on principle. When you're talking about a $6,000 price tag for CJ McCollum, I know he's had a couple of duds of late, but I still trust his floor a little bit more than I do Schroeder's. And obviously at this point, the price difference isn't even all that much. I mean, McCollum still sits in that 33, 34, sometimes 35, 36 minutes night, that range on most nights. Schroeder's closer to 25 minutes a game right now. Played only 16 minutes a couple games ago against the Lakers. So there are those games every now and then where they just, they reduce his playing time, which is not really a risk with McCollum. OKC's defense still top 5 on the season, but they've slipped quite a bit over these last couple of weeks. Over the last 8 games, OKC's given up about 117.5 points per 100 possessions, which is good for 28th in the league, ahead of only Chicago and the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I like this Portland offense against, what's been a Thunder defense that hasn't quite lived up to its season-long reputation.
Jeff, you want to pay up for McCollum here?
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like paying up. It feels like, this is classic betting. Get your worth while it's down. Get CJ McCollum on a night like this. Small slate. He's a cheap price. With that Portland Trailblazers backcourt, this could easily be a night where Lillard's running with Westbrook the whole night and McCollum has to pull his weight. So I go CJ McCollum.
Matt, do you want to go 3 for 3 here?
3 for 3. Yeah, I mean, classic buy low, sell high, right? Like McCollum's price down. Schroder was at 4,700 just last week, and now he's up to 54. He's a pretty volatile producer. Most nights when the Thunder are at full strength, I'm not going to give him a second look. So I definitely will lean McCollum for just $600 more.
Kelly Oubre has been on, I'm getting all the fire questions here. I like it. Kelly Oubre has been on fire lately, averaging 36 DK points over the last 10 days. He's 5,600 against the T-Wolves. Or you could look on the other side of the ball and go for Derrick Rose, who's also been hot, but is more expensive at 6,900. Where are you leaning on this one, Jeff?
I want with all my heart to say that it's Kelly Oubre's time. He needed the trade. Now we're seeing the real Kelly Oubre, but I also see that Jeff Teague is questionable. We're not sure what his minutes are going to be tonight. So when you have Derrick Rose, who's been much more consistent this year, and follow the injury report because he may even be more valuable tonight, I think you get Derrick Rose now.
Matt, where are you going on this one?
Yeah, I like both guys, honestly. I think that they're both in pretty good spots. I will give the slight edge to Rose just because, like Jeff mentioned, he's been a little more consistent recently. He's going to get the minutes. Even if Teague is active, he's going to play. And he's been, kind of an offensive focal point for them out behind Karl Anthony Towns. So I like what he can do for you at 6,300. But Oubre, again, is also a really fine play. I think, with Ayton still out, they're going to play small quite a bit. He should see, 30 minutes or close to it off the bench. And he's been close to a fantasy point per minute since arriving in Phoenix. So I like both guys.
Yeah, Nick, Rose again, 6,300. Where are you on this one?
I like them both as well. I think I'm going to lean toward Derrick Rose. I like the matchup, specifically. I mean, both these teams have been terrible on defense lately, 22nd and 24th in defense over the last 10 games. Both of them are top 12 in pace. So there's a lot of potential for points in this matchup on both sides. But with Rose, I mean, to me, it's still somewhat shocking, to check the box scores or watch these games each night and see that he's, we're almost 50 games in, and he's still producing at this rate. 31 points the other night against these same Suns. No DeAndre Ayton, no Rashawn Holmes. Like Matt said, they're probably going to go a little bit smaller, and I just don't see there being a lot of resistance inside for a guy like Rose who, likes to get into the paint, likes to draw contact. He's got 20 free throw attempts over his last 2 games. I'll go with Rose, who I think has a little bit of a higher floor for only $700 more tonight.
All right, excellent work, ballers. Now we got plenty more to get to with you guys, including over, under, and those showdown picks. But first, we got to bring out the NFL guys for Chase or Fade.
Tyler Sullivan here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. After a wild championship weekend, Super Bowl 53 is set. It'll be the Los Angeles Rams taking on the New England Patriots down in Atlanta. And with any Super Bowl, things are amplified to a crazy degree, and this year is no exception because we're breaking down the jerseys. Seriously. The Patriots will be donning their white away unis while the Rams will be in their classic blue throwbacks. And now I know what you're thinking. Who cares, right? Well, both teams have a pretty immaculate record in both of these jerseys. Los Angeles went 5-1 this season while in those throwbacks, while Tom Brady-led Patriots are 3-1 historically in Super Bowls when wearing their away whites. On top of that, the teams wearing white jerseys have won 12 of the last 14 Super Bowls. That's good news for New England, but they do own one of those losses in white after falling to the Eagles last year. Could be something, could be everything. Regardless, it should be one heck of a matchup for the ages.
Well, the time has come, people, and here we are. Just one football game left in the season. It's the Super Bowl, if you didn't know.
And if you didn't know that, why are you watching this show? Maybe it is for these guys. Bring up our football panel of DK Live's Steve Buchanan, Jeff Ulrich, and Pierce Dietrich. You guys ready for Chase or Fade Super Bowl edition? That's great. Because,
Jessie.
Yeah, good. Wow, Jeff, so enthusiastic. I love you, Jeff. And you don't have a choice, but I'm glad you're into it.
Yeah, we'll probably see this line change quite a bit, and it's changed actually already over the next 2 weeks. But DK Sportsbook has the Patriots as 2-point favorites. Steve, Chase or Fade, the spread should be even higher than that.
Yeah, I'll definitely go with this one. I mean, we saw how quickly the line changed. I mean, if you blinked, you already missed out. The Rams were favorites to open up here, and how quickly that changed here. But yeah, I think it's just going to go more heavily towards the Patriots here. In the grand scheme of things, you think that the Patriots will be able to pull off this win here. I have genuine concern about the performance of Jared Goff, and I'll talk about that a little bit later in the show here. But when you look at these two offenses and you look at how they've both been performing, you have to feel better about the Patriots in this spot here. I mean, both teams have only been underdogs once on the year. Both have won those games, but there's really not a lot of data to go off of here when you're looking at these teams as underdogs. But yeah, as the week goes along, more chatter goes around here. I think the Patriots just be favored by more and more here in this spot.
Jeff, what do you think? And also, follow-up question, are you going to be watching the Pro Bowl?
I don't even know when the Pro Bowl is on, so that tells you your answer right there. Look, as far as this line goes, 85% of the money right now, the public betting money, is on the Patriots. That gives you an idea of where this line is going. Probably going to see -3 at some point. You could get some big bets on the Rams and push that the other way. But no, I mean, I think Steve's right. I think this is going to get bigger. As far as what I think the spread should be, I don't think that anyone should get up to 3 points. I think at best this should be a pick 'em. I think that the Patriots are getting a lot of love for knocking off the Chiefs in a primetime game. Both of these teams won close games on the road. Both of these teams have looked really good and really not so good at times in the season. I think this should be a classic pick'em game. And I'll also throw this out there. The Patriots, the last 2 Super Bowls, the NFC, they've basically been dominated for 7.5 quarters. So outside of the one massive comeback, obviously, but yeah, I don't really think the Patriots should be 3-point favorites.
Pierce,
that definitely matters too.
Yeah, exactly. Pierce, your blood moon analysis was spot on this past Sunday. What do you think?
Yeah, let's don't shake your head, Steve. When I get something right, you need to say good job. Be a good sport here.
Yeah, good job with both of you on Traquan Smith. I said 1.2.
I didn't take Traquan Smith.
That was pretty close.
That was me and Reid, Steve.
Okay. Smith.
Anyway, what do you think, Pierce?
Okay, so yeah, I'm going to chase this. You don't even really need to overthink it. You see the Patriots by 2, you just take the Patriots. It's the Patriots in the Super Bowl. It's basically a pick-em, as Jeff said. You don't even hesitate. And without the hesitation, that means this number is going to have to go up a little bit more to force gamblers to make a tougher choice. If this thing gets to 4, then people are going to have a tougher choice. I think that's where it'll go, up to 4, and then kind of back and forth between 4 and 3. But I don't see it changing a lot. think we're right around the sweet spot, 2, 4, 3, somewhere around there. Patriots. I still might even consider the Patriots at 4.
Rams money line. Just Rams money line.
Okay. We'll
Nick Foles isn't in this game, Jeff.
But the Nick Foles of the Rams. No, I'm just kidding. The over-under is set at 57.5 right now, guys. And we've seen a lot of points scored in recent Super Bowls. So, Jeff, chase or fade, this total is too low.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is like the trifecta in the series here. I mean, we're going to complete the 3-movie thing with the Patriots. I mean, the Falcons and then New England went for a massive point total crazy game, and then you had the 500-yard Tom Brady game against the Eagles that put up a ton of points. I think you're going to see something similar here. I know both these teams want to run the ball, but they're also very fast-paced teams who can break things open pretty quick with a quick passing game. So I think right now you look at this in a dome, just the way the last couple Super Bowls have gone, I take the over.
What do we think here, Piers? Chase or fade? It's too low.
Oh, I think the word Jeff's looking for is trilogy.
That's it.
Trilogy.
It's
the educator.
trifecta.
It's too low. I don't care what happened in last year's Super Bowl or the Super Bowl before. What does that have to do with anything?
Thank you.
That doesn't make any sense that because it was a Super Bowl that these things are going to be high-powered shootouts. We haven't seen a lot of offense in the playoffs. We've seen some blowout scores, and we saw a bad fourth quarter where everybody could score with the Patriots. But I like these defenses. They're both playing pretty well, minus 1 quarter there for the Patriots. But the defenses are playing pretty decent. I don't think we're going to see a lot of points.
Steven, chase or fade, that total is too low.
No, I don't think it's too low. I mean, just looking historically at just this season, I mean, both teams have not been good when it comes to the over-under. Rams are 9-9 on the year, Patriots 7-11 on the year. And realistically, that Pats-Chiefs game, that was really in danger of hitting the under for the most part of that game. I think it was when they went to overtime is when they finally hit the over. Don't hold me to that, but I'm pretty sure that's when it was. And then you look at the public consensus here, 53% of the bets and 54% of the money is on the under right now. And then, as I mentioned a few seconds ago, I think there's genuine concern about how Goff has been performing. He's thrown 5 touchdowns in his last 5 games. That might sound okay, but they both came in 2 separate games. 3 of his last 5 games, he hasn't thrown for a passing touchdown at this point. So, I mean, I don't know. Is he going to be all of a sudden getting the offense going here? You have the mess with the running back situation with the Rams right now. There's just a lot of factors where I could see this game going under. Pretty close, but going under here. But 57.5, I don't really see them exceeding that total at this point in time.
Yeah, not talking about Steve's favorite guy. Tom Brady already has 4 Super Bowl MVP trophies, and he's the favorite to win it right now at plus 110. Pierce, chase or fade, Brady should have the best odds to an MVP again of this game.
Well, Chase, they should have the best odds, but I would not make this bet. At 110, you're not getting much of a payoff, and it's basically a pick-up game, so 50% of the time, the Rams win, and you got to win the Super Bowl to win the MVP. So let's say the Patriots win, then yes, Brady has the best chance, but at 110, I would much rather take a defensive player who's going to get you better odds or better payouts, or taking a running back, Sony Michelle, who has looked awesome. You can take Brady, but I don't think you're going to make yourself very much money.
Steve, what do you think?
I mean, of the 52 Super Bowls that have taken place, 29 of the MVPs have been quarterbacks, makes up for 55% of them. And then of the 5 Super Bowls that Tom Brady has played in, he's won it in 4. Deion Branch was the only exception to those games there. But to be fair, Brady's not really that guy anymore. I mean, in this game that has 2 offenses that want to run the ball, you think a running back would take that award there. Reid just mentioned, Pierce just mentioned that too many guys there to keep track of.
I'll take the credit.
Sony Michelle, Sony Michelle's a good candidate to take that there. James White could also take it there. I mean, look, we joke about it, but C.J. Anderson, the way he's been playing, I mean, he easily could be the MVP if he has one of those 100-plus rushing yard games here. So, Brady's nice and all, but he's not that guy who's going to throw for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns in a game anymore. So I get that the odds are good for him, but I just don't like it here in this scenario.
Jeff, what do you think? You taking Brady or anyone else?
No, I'm like Pierce. I just these odds I just could not touch this. At the same time, if you really like the Patriots, I mean, taking the Patriots and a Brady MVP isn't, I guess, horrible because he's going to get the sentimental vote if the Patriots do win and no one else does anything. But I think the value lies with the running backs in this game. I think Steve was onto something with C.J. Anderson. He's gone for over 100 yards. And what is it, 3 last 4 games now? I mean, if he goes over 100 yards, the Rams are probably going to win. He's going to have a real good shot at getting the MVP. I don't know what he's sitting right now on the DK Sportsbook, but it's probably between like 15, 20 to 1. So that's a good thing. I think all the running backs are really in play. And I think Julian Edelman has been the Patriots' best offensive player over the last 4 or 5 games, and he's probably sitting at like way over 20-1. So way better odds, way better long shot to go with some of those other guys, in my opinion.
All right, well, Steve, you just mentioned him. James White has 4 career touchdowns in Super Bowls, 3 against the Falcons and 1 last year against the Eagles. He's plus 180 to find the end zone this year. So chase or fade, Steven, that White is held out of the end zone.
I mean, just what we saw last week, it just goes to show how you just can't figure out the Patriots running back situation. I mean, look how much run Rex Burkhead got. He ended up with 2 touchdowns there. You know, Sony Michelle was heavily involved once again. It's just so hard to figure out what Bill Belichick and the offense are going to do in this game. I mean, obviously we didn't expect James White to be as heavily involved as he was the week prior, but I mean, in the second half, he was almost a ghost. Like, you had to start thinking, you know, if he was hurt at this point. So, I mean, it's just so hard to figure out what it's going to be here. But when it comes to goal line carries, I mean, White is definitely not in top of the pecking order. It's Michelle, it's Burkhead. So the only way he's going to get in if it's a receiving touchdown. And just going by last week, that's probably not the best area that they're going to score. So I'll fade this one. I think he's held out of the end zone.
Jeff, chase or fade, he's held out of the end zone in Atlanta.
Yeah, I'll chase it too. The last 2 Super Bowls, they didn't have Sony Michelle there. Rex Burkhead was only there for 1. Like, he's healthy now. It's such a mix now. I mean, I do think there's a very good shot you see a lot of James White in this game, but again, he's got to run. He's probably going to catch that pass from like the 15, 20-yard line to get in, because if they get inside the 5, it's going to be Burkhead or Sony Michelle. So, yeah, these odds plus 180. I just don't think it's big enough for me to take it. So I'll chase it. He stays out of the end zone.
Pierce, you want to fade this one, maybe?
I'd like to, but you got to chase this. He's not getting in the end zone. It's not going to happen. For everything that they just mentioned. Now, fantasy-wise, I'll say it again. We say it every week. Just go ahead and play all the Patriots. Don't try to figure out who it's going to be. Just jam them all into your lineups. You'll probably be okay. But as they mentioned, the touchdown equity is not there. Burkhead's getting the goal line carries. Sony Michelle's getting the goal line carries. They're not going to James White. And that means, like Steve said, he's got to get a 15-yard pass. That's not high probability. That's not 180. You should be getting a better payoff if you're relying on a 15-yard touchdown for a score. Should have a good fantasy game, but not getting in the end zone.
Good stuff, you NFL trifecta. Another sending in for 3 there. Take a well-deserved break. We've got the incomparable Chris Wassel joining us to talk some hockey in just a minute.
Brendan Glasheen here, and with this DraftKings Fantasy Flash, Carmelo Anthony has a new home again, but kinda not really. ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski reports the Rockets traded the 10-time All-Star to the Bulls. Thing is, Anthony will not play a game for Chicago. The team will eventually trade or waive him before the February 7th trade deadline. We're on Melo watch for 2 weeks at the most. Woj says the Lakers have an interest in Anthony. That's only if a roster spot happens to become available, meaning LA has no plans to go out of its way and create a space. So no LeBron, you got to keep the banana boat locked up for now. Carmelo's remaining career is hanging by a thread. Clearly, he wants to play and thinks he can help a contender. All he can do now is bundle up, hang in the Windy City, and hope he gets a phone call.
Welcome back to The Sweat. We got our hockey expert here with us, Chris Wassel from Awesemo.com, to break down tonight's tiers contest. So, Chris, we're going to start at the top in Tier 1, which has one of your favorites, Johnny Gaudreau. He's joined by Pat Kane, Connor McDavid, Mark Giordano. So you're going to go with your boy Gaudreau or one of the other guys tonight?
Hey, I'm going with good old Johnny Gaudreau, and until he fails me, I'm going to roll with the guy that is going up against a Carolina penalty kill that is among the bottom 10 in the league, a goaltending situation that is a mess, and the fact that, look, these are 2 teams that can score some goals. Look, Calgary's averaging over 4.25 goals a game. Carolina's averaging about 3.22 goals on the road. To be fair, Calgary allows their fair share, so it's kind of a fun night. You can mix and match with a little bit of both.
So moving on to Tier 2, which has Alex Ovechkin, Brett Burns, Sean Monahan, and Sebastian Aho. Chris, who's your pick here?
I'm going with Sebastian Aho tonight, just for the simple reason. look, Calgary's going to have a very difficult time stopping that top line from Carolina. They generate a ton of chances. They're among the league leaders in high danger chances per 60. I could go on and on about this, but the bottom line is you have Tuva Teravainen and Sebastian Aho. And if you can even sneak in a Michael Furlan somewhere, you have a nice, pretty good contrarian line stack for Tuesday night.
And I know you've had a chance to look at those tiers 3 through 5. So which player do you like the most out of these tiers? Just pick one.
This is going to be fun. For me personally, I went down a little bit lower than I should have, and taking a risk. And I am taking Michael Furlan tonight, just for the simple reason. Look, he's playing his former team, Calgary. I mean, it just sets up too well tonight. You have to sit there and go with it.
You always gotta love it. Yeah, you gotta love it. You gotta love it. Same question, Chris, but now we're moving to what Emerson calls the working man's tier. Who's a must-play from tiers 6 through 8?
Okay, this one was tougher than it looked, guys. I mean, I went through and went up and down, and it's like, where do I go? You know what? Bit of a risk tonight. You can dip down to Carolina a little bit. Can you believe Nino Niederreiter, guys, is $4,000 tonight?
I can't.
What?
I can't.
Yeah, there's quite a few guys. I mean, look, there's some guys that you would expect, the Froleaks of the world, the Grabners of the world, but yeah, he's in the mid fours tonight. Now, if you want to go even a little bit lower and have some fun with this, look at Vinny Hinostroza from the Arizona Coyotes. He's on the top line, and he's only 3,700 going up against an Ottawa team that, again, you have two matchups tonight where both teams lead goals, and they're among the bottom 10 on the penalty kill.
You can save some cash there. Now, lastly, who is your slate-approved pick for the night, Chris?
You think I'm going to go Gaudreau, but no. No, not this time. I'm going with Alex Ovechkin. The reason being, San Jose on the back end of a back-to-back, they've given up 18 goals in their last 3 games. That's one part. The second part is this. Is Martin Jones going to play tonight? Because if Martin Jones is going to play tonight, we do the rare this. We just throw the hoodie over our head. We put our eyes.
Don't watch.
We pull really tight.
Oh no, what's happening here?
And just close.
Yeah.
And that's it. But Ovechkin, without a doubt, is our lock tonight.
Perfect.
Wow, Chris, that was awesome. We're going to talk to you soon because that type of content is what we need more of. But we got our NBA panel coming up in a few, talking over-under on tonight's points totals.
Tyler Sullivan here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. The Saints season may be over, but that defeat to the the Los Angeles Rams, in the NFC Championship doesn't spell the end of the career for one Drew Brees. The 40-year-old quarterback told reporters that he plans on being with New Orleans next season to make what they hope is another Super Bowl run. Brees is coming off a stellar 2018 season that has him in the thick of the MVP race with Chiefs' young signal caller Patrick Mahomes. In the regular season, he threw for just under 4,000 yards, 32 touchdowns, just 5 picks, and a career-best passer rating. For DFS, the return of Brees is great too. He was a top 10 quarterback in DK points per game this year and should be able to do so again with most of his weapons still in the fold. Brees has 1 more year remaining in his contract for 2019, so at the very least, we haven't seen the last of number 9 down in the Big Easy.
Thank you, Tyler. As promised, we got our NBA crew back in action to discuss some over-unders for tonight. So let's bring back DFS expert Jeff Eisenband, Action Network's Matt LaMarca, checking that Conspiracy Wire, and RotoWire's Nick Whalen.
All right, the DK Sportsbook has the Timberwolves and Suns with the highest over-under tonight, 231.5 points. Are you taking the over or under here, Jeff?
I've been saying that I take a lot of overs, but this is just way too high in my mind, 231.5. I know that the Suns don't play a lot of defense, but I just don't think there's enough offense from either of these teams to get to this point. Also, shout out DK Sportsbook because I was in Newark, New Jersey on Saturday, so I placed my NFL bets and had for Sunday.
Slate approved, man. All right, Matt, over under.
Yeah, I'm taking the over. Both of these teams, not good defensively. Minnesota may not have the same reputation as Phoenix in terms of being a bad defensive team, but with Robert Covington off the court and obviously with Jimmy Butler now in Philadelphia, they've been pretty poor in that situation. If you look at what the sharps have been betting in this game, there have been a couple of what we call steam moves on the over, meaning that just a lot of action getting down on the over at the same time. So, I think that the over is the spot here, and we actually have the over listed as a best bet over on the Action Network tonight.
Nick, over or under?
I think this goes over. I mean, 231.5 is a lot. These teams did play on Sunday and got to 230, but neither team shot the ball well in that game. They were combined 18 of 63 from beyond the arc. Both teams turned it over 15 times. Wiggins and Towns were 11 of 36 combined from the field. So, I mean, for that game to get to 230 and for so much to go wrong for both teams, I'm not saying I expect both of these teams to all of a sudden turn around and light it up, but they're both bad defenses. They're both top 12 in pace over the last 10 games. So I think there's a pretty good chance that this can get to the mid 230s and maybe even a little bit higher.
They're both terrible.
They're both bad. I like that. Nick, we're going to stay with you. The Mavs will look to end their 4-game losing streak tonight when they host the Clippers, who have the league's 5th best offense. Do you think they can keep up and get this game over 222.5 points tonight?
I'm going to go under on this one. These are two teams that are below average offenses over the last 10 games. I know the Clippers have been better, over a larger sample, but Clippers are 9th in pace over that same stretch. Dallas is 22nd, so I think that's kind of going to even out right around league average. Not too much to get excited about there, but both these teams are top 10 in defense over the last 10 games. Mavs come in on a back-to-back. Clippers don't have, one of their best scorers in Gallinari. Lou Williams maybe still a little bit banged up. He missed the last game, so I don't think this is by any means a lock. I wouldn't call it a best bet, but there's enough here for me to feel pretty good about this under.
Jeff, Clippers at Mavericks, 222.5. What do you think?
Well, I think that, Nick put it best. Don't look at the stats for the whole season, because these two teams both started off hot and they've been pretty poor recently. They played twice and they've gone over this mark. For that reason, I'm going under, because I think they're just not as good as they were earlier in the season. I don't like where either of these teams are trending. We talked about Dennis Smith being in the lineup. Who knows how that'll affect Luka Doncic's chemistry. My itch is to go under.
Matt, last but not least, we're looking at this law of averages. What do you think? Stats? Where are you going?
I'm going the other way. I'm going over on this contest. And the main reason why is I'm just looking at the Clippers pace numbers with Gallinari on and off the court. When he's on, they're at 98.5 possessions per 48 minutes. With him off, they're up to over 103. So they're actually, playing pretty fast with Gallinari off the court this season. So I think that creates a little bit of value with the over on this number.
Matt's body can't take all the overs.
Well, Jeff's favorite team to watch, the Kings, take on the Raptors tonight in Toronto. So do you see this matchup going over or under 229.5, Matt?
Yeah, this is an under for me. I think it's just a dreadful situation for the Kings. They're playing their 4th game in 5 nights, 2nd leg of a back-to-back, all on a road. They're in a different country tonight. All that traveling has caught up with Sacramento big time this season. They have fell off a cliff offensively on the 2nd leg of a back-to-back in road situations. We also don't know what we're getting from Toronto. I mean, they've been pretty good without Kawhi this season, but obviously a little bit more uncertainty when you're taking out a guy who's a perennial all-star. I think that all of that leads to a lack of offense in this game.
Jeff, did you hear Matt use the words dreadful and the Kings in the same sentence?
I didn't hear anything Matt said.
Okay.
All I heard was that the Kings are playing. I love the Sacramento Kings. And yes, all the stats point probably to taking the under, but I'm taking the over. This is like Matt said, the 4th in 5 games. They're going all out. They're leaving it all on the floor. No Kawhi in Toronto, which I think actually opens up the floor a little bit more. Let's run it, Sacramento. Let's hit that over. What is it? 229.5 over.
Wow. Nick, how do you feel, over or under?
I'm going the other way. This is a little bit of a toss-up with no Kawhi, but, we've seen the situation for, almost a third of Toronto's games now. I think tonight's his 13th missed game of the year, so it's not like we haven't dealt with this before. These teams average about 228 combined, both top 12 in defense over the last 10 games, though, and both right about average in terms of pace. So I certainly don't feel good about it, but I will go under. Kawhi is a little bit of the reason for that, but the Kings have just not scored the ball all that well over these last few games. 94 points yesterday in Brooklyn, 103 in a win against Detroit, 95 against Charlotte in the previous game. So, maybe they're due for a breakout from that, but 4th game in 5 nights, like Matt said, playing in Toronto. I don't really see them, erupting for 125 in this situation.
What a time to be alive.
Young legs.
Yeah, the Kings are fun to watch. The Browns are fun to watch. Man, what a time to be alive. Thanks, guys. We got one more segment with you three. So stay close. And you guys out there watching, stay close to your screens. So we got NFL coming up next. Until then, let's hear from Pat Mayo in the PME studios.
Tiger Woods, he's back. He is 18-1. So here's the conundrum, if you want to get into it. Tiger Woods has deeper odds at this course, where he has won 8 times in his career, than he currently does at the Masters. In a this is a strong field. Masters, a bit tougher field. It just seems straight.
Cam Champ has equal odds as his Masters odds.
Cam Champ's not even in the Masters.
Okay. Those are fair points.
This was the site last year. This was Tiger's first tournament last year. And we saw it. He made the cut. Remember Tiger went through a grind period for the first few weeks when he came back?
He stole that word. What's the thing that the Sixers kept saying? Progress? The process. He kept referring to a process last year early on. Process.
I want to get back in the rhythm
of
playing 4 rounds.
We saw him at the Hero last year, right? And everyone got really excited because we saw a lot of the chipping. He was having some trouble off the tee, but that's just work. And chipping usually should come last. And he was, chipping great. And this was a great scene last year because we saw him. It was all of us. I want to see him take a shot where we can't even see his ball in penal rough. And let's see that shot. And he was pulling them off.
He played well at this event last year, and he kind of got it going on the weekend. He snuck through,
and then he got hot for Florida, and then there was that Masters hype, and he kind of just sort of had a very consistent peaking for big events season.
Can he win this event this year?
Okay,
I'm going to say no.
Yes, micro.
Yes, he can, but I don't think that he's going to.
I'm with you, because in the micro analysis of this event, as it pertains to Tiger's plan for 2019, it's a process to peak for the Masters. Maybe be peaking at the Players.
If we're going,
he's in process mode.
In my opinion, if we're going to bet Tiger once before the Masters, I think Honda's the spot.
It's not here. I just believe that Tiger believes everything is on the table now. The big picture, really important things. Just being back, walking with young guys isn't the thing anymore after how great last year was.
He's here to win now.
But he's here to win the Masters, the U.S. Open. I think this is the start of
If you think that he can win those tournaments this year, he can win this tournament no problem.
I don't doubt that.
We got a breaking news alert. That was great. I think we're really good at that. Boom. So breaking news, the Baseball Hall of Fame class of 2019 has been announced. We have Edgar Martinez, Roy Halladay, Mike Messina, and Mariano Rivera, Rivera was the first player ever to be unanimously voted in. So we have Steve Buchanan and Pierce Dietrich here with us to weigh in. So Steve, what's your take on this and Rivera being unanimously voted in historically? Oh, can't hear you. Try again. Nope. And maybe now?
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, I think it's definitely well-deserved. To be totally honest, I think he should be the second player to be unanimously voted in. Ken Griffey Jr., remember that guy?
Yeah.
I think he probably should have got the top. But yeah, look, Rivera, 652 career saves, and he just always was a thorn on the side of the Red Sox. 58 saves against the Red Sox. If there's a time to come through in the clutch, it's definitely against your division rival. So absolutely a slam dunk there by the Hall of Famers and everybody who voted them in there. So definitely agree with you there. Definitely deserves it.
Pierce, what do you think about this group?
Nothing against Mariano Rivera and his one pitch, but the problem here is the NFL Hall of Fame, the NBA Hall of Fame, they're worthless because they let everyone in. What made the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame majestic was they didn't let everyone in. They were very strict. The baseball writers were curmudgeons, and that's what there was a mystique to it. Now everyone gets in. There's a lot of good players from the 70s and 80s that deserve to be in that were shut out and will never get a chance. And now you got Edgar Martinez and Mike Messina are in the Hall. Those are the Hall of Famers. Whoever said watching them, oh, yes, guy's a Hall of Famer. That's ridiculous.
I love this. I love how heated Pierce is about this.
Pierce is very heated. He's just an old soul. I appreciate that. No, let's talk about another old soul that we'll welcome back in now. I'm just kidding, Jeff. You are young at heart. And also, I got to give Jeff props here. FSTA nominee for Golf Writer of the Year. So
let's go.
Appreciate kudos. Boom, slate approved. Absolutely. So check out his stuff on Twitter and everything. But going back to football, which is why we have you guys here. Julian Edelman is the most expensive player this week, $16.2K as captain and $10.8K as a flex. Steve, do you think he deserves to be the priciest player this weekend or next weekend?
Thank you. I don't mind it at all here. I mean, this is somebody who's gotten 23 targets through 2 playoff games here, 247 yards. Doesn't have a touchdown yet, but that shouldn't come as a surprise because Brady has only thrown 2 passing touchdowns so far in the playoffs. What really shocked me out of anything is how low Sony Michelle is. I mean, who is making these prices? He's the 8th most expensive guy on this slate. This is someone who scored 5 touchdowns in 2 games, 242 rushing yards, and he's the 8th most expensive player. Like, the pricing on this, you can make some stellar teams here. And Edelman has the most expensive, $10,800. Definitely is going to be an anchor here. Is one of Brady's most, favorite targets here. But I was just so shocked by the price of Michelle.
Jeff, what do you think? You like that Sony price? Where are you going?
Well, Edelman's got to be the most expensive player because it's just the way these teams set up. I mean, Gurley and Anderson all of a sudden in a timeshare. You got 3 Patriots backs. It can't be any of the running backs. And then you have Tom Brady, who's not really throwing at like a super high pace anymore. And Jared Goff, who sometimes gets his production eaten into by the run game again. So Edelman just makes the most sense. He is the one player who you can basically line up and say he's going to get minimum 9 to 11 targets in this game. I would be shocked if he didn't. So he does make sense as the most expensive. I agree with Steve. Some of these prices it's going to make for some really interesting teams. I mean, CJ Anderson, I can't even see him on my screen because he's so low. Like that's the beauty of these teams, though. They have so many offensive players they can put in, take out. We don't really know what the game flow is going to be. There's going to be some big shocks, and a guy like Anderson or Michelle, one of them probably going to bust, one of them might boom. So,
Pierce, if you don't agree, who do you think should be the priciest, if not Edelman?
Yeah, I think the price is just too high. I don't want to spend the most on my captain. He fits the mold. Does he have the ceiling? Yes. Can he get multiple touchdowns? Yeah, he can do that as well. But for me, the running backs are in play, and I understand Jeff's point that these guys are going to sprout the carries. But if you look at a point per dollar basis, any of those running backs can hit what Edelman can get, and you can take the running backs in the captain spot and put Edelman as one of your regular picks. I just think it's too expensive, and as Steve mentioned, the touchdowns are going to running backs. This is a running back game on paper. Sure, Belichick could change all of that, but it's just too high of a price for a captain.
Yeah, well, Todd Gurley is way cheaper than he normally is, just $9,000. So he hasn't been under $11K in a showdown all season. So does that make him a steal, Jeff?
He's definitely not a steal. I mean, I do think he might be one of those plays that is going to be under-owned when we all get down to it. I think people are finally on to the fact that CJ Anderson is the value play in this backfield now. He's going to see minimum 30% of the snaps, most likely, unless something drastic happens in game. So CJ Anderson down at 5,200, Todd Gurley at 9K. I think most people are going to be looking to pay down for CJ Anderson and save elsewhere. It doesn't make Todd Gurley a bad play because, we're talking about a one-game slate with some massive GPPs on DraftKings. You want lower ownership on a guy like Todd Gurley. If things do go his way, if he can actually catch the ball in this game and get off to a good start, he could be the guy who goes off. So 9K, not cheap, but could definitely be the GPP play of the week.
Pierce, he's $2,000 less than he has been all year in showdown mode. What do you think? Is he a steal at 9K?
Well, here's the scary thing with Todd Gurley. We have 2 weeks till the game, and we have no idea what is going on with Todd Gurley. He drops a pass, and it gets intercepted. No fault of his own. He just dropped a couple passes, and then he never gets on the field again. What kind of coaching is that? One of the biggest games of the year. You got to give him carries to warm him up. They just completely pulled him out of the game with CJ Anderson. I don't know what to expect, and I don't think we're going to get an answer. You got to trust that he's going to get playing time. He's Todd Gurley, but I don't know. It could be CJ Anderson. I don't know if it's a steal at all.
Steve, what do you think? $9,000 for a guy who didn't look that great in the championship game?
Sorry, that was a really bad take. It stinks.
Okay, he's got that prop ready.
I mean, What do you mean, what kind of coaching is that? That's what's called good coaching. If a guy is not producing, you take him off the field and put in there the guy who is producing. Gurley had 4 carries and 3 targets. Oh, man, the aroma in here right now. It's just like he's just not producing right now. Anderson has been the guy. And if McVay is going to pull Gurley if he's not performing, you really have to think about fading Gurley in this spot. I mean, granted, Anderson was slowed down last week, but the Saints have been one of the best defenses, run defenses, in the league. And look at the Patriots too. They really haven't been that bad lately against the run. The Steelers had 158 yards against them in week 15, but then they faced the Bills, the Jets, the Chargers, and the Chiefs. All of them had no more than 76 rushing yards in those games. Granted, we have some meaningless games mixed in there, some games where teams were massively behind, so they weren't going to the run here. But this is going to be one of the things that's going to be the most debated parts of this showdown game, is whether they'll play Gurley or Anderson. I think really you can play both, because both have the upside to go off here. But, man, even at 9,000, Gurley just does not feel like that sure thing anymore at this point.
Was that the Axe effect?
Yeah. I think that was Old Spice.
That was Old Spice.
There
Come on. A little higher class than that. Okay?
Yeah.
I was just wondering.
Teenage boy.
You were spraying it with absolute abandon. I felt like you must have really
There's so many places we could go with this, but for the sake of the show, we'll move on. And someone who actually could end up in an Old Spice commercial later on, Gronk made some clutch plays.
Not me?
Maybe you, buddy. In the AFC Championship, hauling in 6 catches. That's more than he's had in his previous 4 games combined. He's $6,000 for next 2 Sundays from now. Next Sunday. Pierce, is that a tempting price for you for Mr. Gronk?
At least Gronk would have the dignity to not buy spray-on deodorant.
Is it the roll-on kind?
That's a prop, Steve.
It's a prop.
It's a prop. He's in front of his bathroom. It's a prop.
The prop that Steve
you
also
can't play Gronk this week. He doesn't have the ceiling, and you're going to need big scores on a 1-game slate. I would rather go with the tie. I mean, we'll give Steve credit. He almost nailed the Arnold pick last week, and that's probably the way to go. You got to give him credit. It was inches away from Arnold getting a touchdown and Steve probably making a lot of money. I don't want to go with Gronk. He just does not have the ceiling, and he's going to cost you. I'd rather go cheap and just get a touchdown out of somebody.
Yeah, make sure you follow all these guys on Twitter, because Steve's reaction to that Arnold drop was fantastic.
Yeah.
So we'll go to you, Steve. What do you think?
My dog is still recovering from how loud I yelled at my television when he dropped that touchdown. I had him in Showdown at 1%. It was so awful to watch him drop that touchdown. But seriously, what a troll job by the Patriots last week. I mean, we've seen Gronk do nothing all season long, and then he absolutely goes off here against the Chiefs. But I think all of us did agree that if there was a matchup he was going to do that, it was against the Chiefs. And now he's in a pretty good matchup again against the Rams. The Rams weren't a team that were strong against opposing tight ends. But I'm just going to go back here, because if you're going to play Gronk, it's really just the recency bias because of what he did against the Chiefs. And that's where you can get into a lot of trouble, especially in daily fantasy sports. I mean, if it wasn't for last week, that was the first time since week 14 that he caught 6 passes. The first time all season long he's seen double-digit targets. You take a look at who's priced below him. Philip Dorsett, who's caught a touchdown in 3 straight games now. Josh Reynolds is a little bit cheaper than Gronkowski, too. I just don't see them going back to Gronk in this scenario. I mean, granted, it's the Patriots. Anything can happen in this spot, but just one game here that we saw Gronk go off, I get it, but that's just not the player he's been almost all season long.
Yeah, Jeff, do you think this goes back-to-back for Gronk? He's been a virtual no-show for pretty much the second half of the season, so what do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, look, again, the matchup isn't that bad. 6 tight ends have gone for 90 yards or more against the Rams this year, so they've allowed massive gains. I mean, George Kittle just destroyed them this year in a couple games. Jared Cook destroyed them at the start of the year. So it makes sense to like Gronk, but that's part of the problem, right? Lots of people are going to like Gronk. It's a 1-game slate. Then you have the 2 tight ends on the Rams. But Gerald Everett is very athletic, could easily go for a big game here. Tyler Higbee could find the end zone. So I kind of like the idea of fading Gronk. I just think he's going to be too popular on the slate. He's kind of the secondary option that most people are going to think about. Edelman. Dorsett's coming on. You still got like CPAT there. I think it's okay to fade Gronk personally. It's an okay matchup. But again, Steve's right. You look at the whole picture. Gronk is not like, he's still more of a blocker right now. So I think a fade is probably the better play.
Guys, it's going to be the second consecutive game with a revenge narrative for Brandon Cooks. He's 8,200. Steve, do you think he's going to go off on the Pats and be worth it?
I mean, this narrative that it's, a revenge game. I mean, the Pats traded him away because they weren't going to pay him when his contract was up. And it's not like they shipped him off to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They put him with a contender. Pierce is like hugging a can right now, and I don't see where the revenge game is coming into play here. And then when you look at his matchup, you should see a decent amount of J.C. Jackson in coverage. Jackson's been pretty good lately, but he had a tough game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Sammy Watkins burned him a couple of times there, and obviously I would think Cooks is a much better player than Sammy Watkins. So I don't love the matchup for him, but I mean, man, we've seen it so many times, and even in that last game, Cooks can get down the field so fast. He can hit those deep shots there, so I don't mind him at all, but it's definitely not because of a revenge game. I mean, Belichick did it a favor by trading him to the Rams.
Jeff, you like that revenge narrative on Narrative Street?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm all about the revenge narratives. That's how I start my lineups every week. But look, it's a little disconcerting to see Brandon Cooks going up against a defense that just shut down like a better version of Brandon Cooks and Tyreek Hill, right? So at the same time, the Rams are just as good at the Patriots as scheming players open. And Brandon Cooks is coming off probably his best game of the year, I'd say, versus the Saints. He was really dominant at times against some very good corners there. So I don't know what to say. I if I'm making 10 lineups, I'm definitely going to have some Brandon Cooks exposure, but I definitely want a piece of those secondary Rams options because I really do feel like there's a good chance the Patriots are going to make guys like Gerald Everett win this game. So I guess what I'm saying is Brandon Cooks setting up boom or bust for me for the week. Wouldn't be shocked either way. Don't really have a definitive answer.
Okay, no definitive answer. Pierce, were you hugging the screen? I don't know what was going on.
Too many hot takes. It's getting. I'm overheating.
He was like kissing a can.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm trying to cool off. Anyway,
like normal people.
Behind the scenes, you can't give up the secrets there, Steve.
Brandon Cooks, he's going to get – look, the Patriots, they always shut down the number one player on the other team, and if Todd Gurley's not playing, who's that going to be? So I imagine they're going to focus on taking Cooks out. Gilmore has been playing awesome during the playoffs, and I'm sure he's going to match up plenty on Cooks. And if anyone can shut down Cooks, it's probably his former coach. Probably knows exactly what – I mean, I guess that can't be said for Sean Payton, but I think you can say that for Bill Belichick. Should be able to shut down Cooks this week. I wouldn't go with him.
All right, all's good stuff. Thanks for the help, fellas. Go enjoy your night. We've got put on some deodorant there, Steve. We got one more go around with our NBA panel after this.
Hey, it's Brendan Glasheen in with this DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Sonny Gray couldn't get out of the Bronx soon enough. There's no gray area there. The Yankees shipped the 29-year-old righty to the Reds. Gray has already agreed to a 3-year, $30.5 million contract extension with Cincinnati. There's also a club option built in for 2023. He departs from Yankee Stadium to Great American Ballpark, one bandbox to another. But hey, the National League suits Gray for a bounce-back year after a bumpy 2018 11-9 record, a 4.90 ERA. The former Vanderbilt stud also reunites with his college pitching coach, Derek Johnson, who is also new to the Reds staff. Gray dominated for the Commodores his junior year, 132 strikeouts in 126 innings before heading for the draft. All right, that's college stuff. Gray needed a change in the majors. New scenery perhaps helps bring back his 2015 All-Star capability.
Final go-around of this show, and we're bringing back the NBA trio, DFS expert Jeff Eisenband. Action now, there it is, Mel Rivera. I was going to call that out. I saw it on the couch there. We appreciate that. Action Matt LaMarca, and RotoWire's Nick Whalen. Fellas, we're going to need your picks for tonight's Showdown contest between the Blazers and Thunder, as well as the Timberwolves and Suns.
Jeff, we're going to start with you. Because your jersey. So who would you use?
We can't just talk about Mariano Rivera?
Yeah, do you want to give your no, I'm just kidding. People are going to kill us if we do that. Tweet about it though. We're going to start with you. So who would you use in your captain spot in the Blazers Thunder game, and you can give a quick take.
I think this is a perfect time to take Paul George as your captain. I think Russ and Dame cancel each other out a lot. I actually don't have the numbers exactly in front of me, but Paul George is I think like 2,000 less than Russell Westbrook for the captain's pick. So I think that's just lining up for a great Paul George game. In terms of Mariano Rivera, because I think it was Pierce with the anti-Mo.
He was pissed
earlier. 5 world championships, lights out. You can't say enough about Mariano Rivera. Also, I saw a great tweet that he helped sports writers reach their deadline, so that's why he was unanimous.
Oh, that's actually really interesting.
Look at
Mark
that.
Carrick, shout him out.
Those is that from the Zero Source of the Zero Source podcast?
Zero Source pod. Speaking
I'll give you a Zero Source. The only thing I had as a Mets fan was Tom Seaver being the guy with the highest percentage of Hall of Fame votes. Literally the only thing I've had.
I'm really
and
sorry.
Now, it gets broken by Griffey and then gets broken again by Rivera. Like the Yankees fans need something else to be
You
happy.
could have just chosen to be a Yankee fan, Matt.
Yeah, you should have.
You can't
But
choose those
for
things,
now,
you know
let's
that.
get back to NBA. Who's your captain, Matt?
I am going with Evan Turner. I want somebody who's a little bit cheaper that's going to allow me to fit in a few of those studs. And Turner has just been pretty darn good recently. Like he's not somebody that I would want playing on my basketball team, but he gets fantasy points. So I like Evan Turner. I think that he helps you get in a couple of those high-priced options.
Nick, where you going?
Yeah, I think McCollum maybe makes some sense given the low price tag we talked about earlier. But I have Paul George as well, 9,700. Maybe there's a case to be made for Jusuf Nurkic as well. But Paul George, I mean, you're paying up, but you're getting a guy who's been putting up MVP caliber production pretty much this entire season. He's up close to 50 DraftKings points per game over his last 10. So I'm going PG tonight.
PG, a guy who Karan, a regular of our show, says a guy who buckets getting bucketed.
He
or
buckets. Buckets be bucketing.
No one cares. Moving on. Matt, if people need to find some value, I beat it, because they captained one of these expensive guys, who should they look at for some value again? What do you think?
Jake Layman. Guy dropped 20 points in a quarter the other night on 5 3-pointers. He's been getting some more run for Portland. He's definitely somebody you can consider at 3,800.
Nick, are you going to save some?
Layman was on my list as well. There's some concern maybe with Mo Harkless back that he would lose minutes, but that really hasn't been the case so far. But I'll go Jeremy Grant as well. 5,300, been really, really good, really underrated for OKC this year, averaging more than 35 minutes per game over the last 10. And Patrick Patterson is banged up. He left yesterday's game with what looked like a face or an eye injury or something. So maybe a little bit more reason to go with Grant tonight.
Jeff, where's your value pick?
Zach Collins, 2,800. He's coming off a 4-point DFS performance, but he's had at least 19 in 4 of his last 8. 2,800. That's an easy price for him.
Wow. Okay, moving to the other showdown. Karl Anthony Towns is 19,200 if you want him as your captain. He's $3K more than the next option, Devin Booker. So how are you approaching this decision, Nick?
I'm going with Towns. I mean, we talked about this matchup earlier. Phoenix is out of centers, essentially. Dragan Bender is going to be, in there for a lot of this game, as was the case on Sunday. Towns went for 30 when these teams, I should say, played a couple days ago, and he was 8 of 22 from the field in that game. Did get to the line 13 times, made all 13 of those attempts. And like I said, the Suns just don't have anyone to throw at him. So as much as I love Devin Booker, I kind of have to go with Towns by default, even though he's a little pricier.
Jeff, what you doing?
I know Matt disagrees with my showdown captain decisions, but I take the bet who I think is going to be the best player. I don't think you split a winner, or in this case, go 2/3 of a winner. I'm taking Karl Anthony Towns. Give me his 1.5. I know what I'm getting more so than anyone else.
Matt, do you disagree?
Yeah, I just don't think you can make your surrounding roster good enough if you select Karl Anthony Towns at captain, which is why I am going with Dragan Bender.
Oh God.
He had 30 and a half in his start in the last game. If he does that again, and then I can surround him with Towns, with all the other superstars in this game, I can already feel my pockets getting heavy.
I hope you're playing 50-50, man.
Okay, we only got a minute and a half, guys. We got to be quick with these. DeAndre Ayton isn't expected to play in this one with the sprained ankle. Oh, he's out. He's out. So, because he's out, who picks up his slack? Where do you think here, Matt?
Yeah, I mentioned Bender. I think he's the obvious candidate. And I also really like Kelly Oubre off the bench, who we already talked about.
Nick, who you got?
Yep, same here. I mean, Bender's the guy, $4,000, played 29 minutes the other night. Oubre maybe picks up a few extra minutes. And then, if you really want to dig deep, maybe Josh Jackson picks up 4 or 5 extra minutes on the wing.
Jeff, I know you didn't like this pick, so
I'm digging deep. Quincy Acey on his second 10-day contract, 3,400. He just came off a 22-point DFS point game, only going up.
Under a minute for 2 questions. Where can people find value in this game, Jeff?
Quincy Acey at 3,400, and also Jared Bayless at 1,400 if Jeff Teague doesn't play.
Nick?
Like I said, Josh Jackson. I mean, I don't love him. He's been frustrating, but, with the Suns having to go small, I think he ends up playing closer to 25, 26, 27 minutes than the usual, 19 or 20.
Matt?
I like Jeff's calls, and I will add in Mikal Bridges.
All right, slate approved. Just the name. Matt, stick with you.
Kyle Lowry.
Nick?
Tobias Harris.
Jeff? Mariano Rivera?
Carl Towns and Rivera.
There we go.
Rivera
And Mike
for
Mussina.
life. All right, thanks, guys, and thanks, everyone, for watching. Make sure to tune in Monday through Friday from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere else. I'm Jessie. He's Reid T. Fowler. See you later.
I realize no one can see me.
I could see it, Jeff.